Tuning into the Jam Hour, where we talk on the hottest topics. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. CT on YouTube.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back. This week, I have the incomparable Faith Miller here to talk everything music, what led her to getting started into music, and where she ultimately is today. So without further ado, I have the pleasure in bringing in Faith Miller. Thank you for coming on, Faith. I'm gonna be real transparent. So I met Faith in college, okay, y'all? Like, I have the pleasure to know her from the roots, okay, and just like where she first started, like this journey. And so given that, I'm really honored to like have this full circle moment from meeting each other in the club, taking pictures of you, and like discovering that you're an artist, like a good ass artist, excuse my French, but like, yeah, like I honestly coming into knowing who you are. So I just want to take it back a little bit. For those who don't know, I actually went to the University of Missouri, and that is located in Columbia, Missouri. If you know, it's like the middle of nowhere. And so I know you two grew up like in the middle of nowhere from Northeast Missouri and Kirksville. So I want to talk about like your roots and essentially like how you got started making music. I know you and we've talked, and so you talk about like growing up in church and, family and things like that. But ultimately, what starting from like, the city in which you grew up in, what inspired you to start making music?
So I would kind of say that I've kind of always been making music. Growing up, I played piano and then I also played violin. So I was always kind of around like that, and then choir, and I did theater also. Like when I was younger, I was actually going to school for theater as well too in college, before I dropped out and decided to just commit to making music full time, or try to make music full time. But I think I always knew that making music and creating music was always something that I wanted to do. Like even when I was like 2 and 3, like I was always singing. I was always learning like musicals and things like that. Just a very like musical, theatrical child, if that makes sense. And then also like growing up in church too.
No, you did.
There's just music is very like centered in church. So for me, that was a big part of like my experience as well. Growing up inside of church and music. So both of those things definitely correlate. But I would say it was like in college when I first started like trying to record and trying to work with people, that was really where I was like, oh, I think this is really what I want to do. Like I could kind of see myself like really doing it. So for me, that was kind of like where that journey really started.
So you talk about, growing up being connected to music. How has discovering your voice and learning to express it genuinely through music been?
For me, my perspective has changed so much on like myself, because I think the way that I grew up, like I went to a private church school, and I feel like a lot of things were like kind of taboo, and it was kind of hard to have conversations about certain things, like being a teenager, growing up and having emotions and having feelings, and just kind of being told that like a lot of things were just wrong in general. But which again, that's not always like, I don't necessarily agree, and I don't think that that's like a good representation of like church and people growing up in church. But from my experience growing up the way that I did, this is just my experience. But it was kind of hard for me to vocalize some of the things that I was going through. So writing music was kind of like, it started as like an outlet for me, if that makes sense. And then like on that journey, I feel like from then to now, like I feel like I'm still learning about myself. I feel like for me, it's always been a place where like going to the studio and working on a record, it's always been a place for me to kind of like have therapy, if that makes sense. I always joke about like if I really start going to therapy that I'm not going to have anything to talk about, but I don't think that that's true at all. I genuinely don't think that's true, because for me, I also like to kind of like put myself in a box sometimes and give myself like different ideas and different like things to play on, even if it's a situation that like I would never like gravitate towards. Sometimes it's fun to like act and like, do that kind of stuff. Like an actor, like, okay, like I would never actually cheat on the person that I'm with, but okay, cool. Like I have to do this in this scene. Like for me, it's like if I'm writing a song or whatever, and this is kind of like the grounds or the general idea that we have. Okay, cool. Like if I was going to do that, what would I do? And then you write it in a song, you know what I'm saying? So it's fun to give yourself like that kind of perspective. But I think there's like two parts for me. Whenever I'm working on a record, is like, okay, what am I feeling? What do I want to say? And I think it's been a journey Honestly, my producer Ashley, when I first started working with Ashley back in 2022, he really helped me develop my pen and things like that. I think before I always tried to think of, like, I was just very wordy and I was always trying to get a lot across. And for him, it really helped him kind of like breaking things down for me and simplifying things and kind of just like being like, Faith, talk about the things that like you enjoy and talk about things that are like your perspective and what, not just what you think people want to hear. Because it's like, that's why people are going to fall in love with you.
So that actually, you're preparing me for my next question. So my next question was, finding your sound as an artist, do you ever feel limited to the kind of music you can make or needing to choose one over the other?
I think I felt put in a little bit of a box when I started like exploring country music, because I think for people like branding is really important. And I think for me, that's why I decided to stay in that pop genre lane, because I feel like pop really allows me to kind of just float around in that bubble wherever I really want to. If that makes sense, because I feel like I am a very expressive person and I really like music that kind of has a different beat, if that makes sense. And I like finding different pockets and different ways to say things. And I feel like sometimes in country music, it's too straightforward, if that makes sense. And I love country music. Like, don't get me wrong. I have nothing but amazing things to say, but also like the country music that's on the charts right now is like also anybody where I grew up from would be like, that's not country music. Like my country song that I have out, like my coworkers in my hometown would be like, Faith, that's not country. Like,
But that's your interpretation
exactly.
of country. No, for real, I get that. And so I honestly want to get into, I like to say, like when people have or are multifaceted and they do other things, I like to say, like, what's your day job? What's your superhero day job? And so I know you mentioned your coworkers, and I know you're like a full-time singer for the most part and model. And so I'm sure when people hear you say your coworkers in terms of what you do for work, I'm sure that is like,
Yes.
what? Like you still got a job?
Nah,
You
I
still
got
got
a
a
nine
nine
to
to five?
five. She does have a nine
How
to
has that
five.
been?
So I actually grew up around construction. My dad builds spec homes. And so I kind of know a lot about like house building and stuff like that because I worked for him like when I was a teenager. So I actually work at the pro
Okay.
desk at Home Depot. So if you ever need
Okay.
anything from Home Depot, come see me.
You know, I just signed up a membership. Well, not the credit
The
card
Pro
one, but
Extra.
the other one. It's like you get points for.
Yes, our loyalty program.
Yes,
Yes, James is gonna be so proud of me. He's gonna be like, "Yes, use your
I'm a
interview to
loyalty
talk
member.
about Home Depot."
This no, we're going to. I'm sorry. Just 5 minutes about Home Depot. I bought this from
Yes.
Home Depot. Shout out to the lovely lady who helped me buy that. She gave me her
Period.
discount.
Period.
Okay, we
Yes.
love a Home
Yes.
Depot
Yes. Yes.
discount. But yeah, no. That's really good. I'm glad to know. So you can get down and
Yes.
dirty, but you can also be cute. You know how to switch it up. And so I feel like that also kind of plays into your music. And I'm going to get into that a little later. But right now, I want to ask, how has bridging the gap between creating music as a hobby and running a business full time, or like running it as a business, how has that been? And do you still think you're able to have
So I would
fun?
definitely say that I'm kind of like a little bit of a robot right now, if that makes sense, where I've kind of put like a personal life and that kind of stuff on hold just because of how much I have on my plate right now. And I think for me mentally, that's just the easiest way to do it. Um, but I will say that not every season like requires that level of dedication. But I think whenever I'm trying to accomplish a goal, like, okay, I've got a music video, I've got a film, I also have a show coming up and I've got all rehearsals for it as well as a song that's getting ready to come out. So it's like I have a lot of things going and I'm also working full time. So it's like for me, I can only handle so much, if that makes sense. And if my personal life is struggling because of that, for me, I'll just eat it every time, which isn't always a healthy thing to do. Because then you get burnt out and you get a little bit like, and you snap, if that makes sense sometimes, for things that aren't worth it. But I feel like for me, I have a really amazing, awesome best friend who is like my part-time therapist who does an amazing job. Shout out to Lexi Lou. Shout out to Lexi Lou. You should totally have her on your podcast.
Shout out, best friend.
She does a really amazing job at just checking in and making sure that I'm good because she sees how hard I work. And I appreciate her friendship so much. She has been there for so much. Oh my gosh. I could get emotional just talking about her, but she literally is the freaking best. And I think she's so helpful too. She always makes sure that like I have everything that I need for shoots or shows or whatever. And then also like I've been able to perform here lately with her because we're both on my song Sticky. So being able to do
Mhm.
shows and stuff with her has been so much fun. I am the kind of person that I get super nervous like right before shows, but every show that I've done with her, like right before we go out, like I just don't feel those nerves like I normally do if she comes out on stage with me.
You mentioned a couple of things I want to like piggyback off of, but for performances and shows, what has that experience have been like? Because, like you said, you do work a 9 to 5 sometimes, and then you're
Yeah.
hitting the stage. So, how is it like that reality of like you're not an average girl just out here in the world working
Right.
at Home Depot? You know what I'm saying? You're like a mega.
The
You're
period,
Miley
Hannah
Cyrus, okay?
Montana,
Bitch,
Hannah
stop playing.
Montana.
No, Hannah
Home Depot's Hannah
Montana, like for
Montana.
real. It's so like
Um, no,
no,
truly, I would
really.
definitely say I think before it was easier for me to like when I still lived in my hometown. Obviously, like I live in St. Louis now. It was easy for me to like come here, get all my work done, and then just go home. And then kind of it felt like two separate lives. But for
Mhm.
me, it was really draining, just like driving back and forth. And being here, it's definitely a little bit harder because obviously, like I'm doing shows locally, and it's like people that come into my job all the time are like, "Hey, are you singing at this festival? I saw a flyer and it looked like the girl that was on it literally looks like you." And I'm just like, oh yeah. So it's definitely been a little bit different to like kind of like separate that like work, like trying to pursue music lifestyle, if that makes sense. It's definitely been different. And it's something that I've been working through because I do care a lot about my job and I put a lot of effort and energy into making sure I take care of all the people that come in to see me on a regular basis. But it's been a lot of fun because I feel like for me I feel like I'm starting to live one life, whereas before I was living like two lives. And honestly,
Yeah.
like I'll say this, I had a really good conversation with someone that is a dear friend, or grew to became a dear friend to me. That's also artist and that also makes music. A little bit over a year ago, and for me, the takeaway from that conversation, it really told me like I need to be here doing this full time because I think in my brain, living in my hometown and driving back and forth, I was thinking like I didn't really see myself as like an artist. Like I saw myself as a girl making music, and I was like, if I move here, that shift in my brain will happen, and it did. So I think for me, it's easier to like see myself as an artist that is just still working versus a girl that makes music.
Is
Yeah,
chasing a dream and driving to, yeah,
yeah,
I know what you mean. So given that, I would love to like discuss what that journey ultimately looks like for you, because you aren't necessarily signed to a big label where they're giving you $100,000 and they're like, go
yeah,
make music, right? So it's like the money that you make, how do you invest it? Like, do you have to pay your
yeah,
management? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you have to do your own
yes.
wardrobe and styling for these concerts? So really, so let's talk about it. Like, what word of advice do you have for someone who's independent and coming up and wanting to like do exactly what you're doing, but doesn't understand like the looking good versus looking bad? Like, you may have to work a 9 to 5 to get your outfit together for your performance until that big day comes where you have the
Yeah.
record label to
So
do
I
it for
think
you.
that's what really separates the people that want to do this and the people that like again it's just a hobby because for me like I pay for everything myself. Like obviously like I have a manager and I have a producer, so I'm very blessed. I have access to a studio and things like that as well. But it's like for dancers for show, you got to pay for that. For outfits, you have to pay for that. A lot of the outfits, actually all of the outfits that I've made since are all the outfits that I've worn at all of my shows since the show that I did for Slow Spread Love on his birthday. I made that outfit. I've made
Mhm.
the one for UMSL. I made the one for the Music and Mimosas Festival, and I've also made my outfit for the Art
I
Mimosas
love
and
that
Pancakes
one.
video, or not video, show coming up. So for me, I feel like it's been a really like therapeutic outlet, and also it kind of keeps me in touch with like me as like an artist. Like, okay, what do I want people to take away from looking at me on stage, or what do I want them to feel and understand about the song that I'm performing, and along with like the look. And I think I've always really been into fashion, and I think I've really just kind of come into myself just a little bit more throughout this process. But I will say that my collaboration with Apple Bottoms, I was working with them for 3 months. I had signed them um, as like a model or whatever you want to call it. So I was working with them. It's definitely given me shout out to Dot and Yvette, who are the designers behind Apple Bottom. They've really given me like the confidence to kind of just like play around with things and kind of see how things look and just have fun with it, you know? And I feel like it's fun to meet people like that are like, you know, once in a lifetime kind of like people, you know what I'm saying? Like that are also very creative and they're also successful at what they're doing. And then to be able to see yourself kind of growing and elevating and just having fun with it. You know, I feel like they made me really want to just have fun with it. So I really enjoyed getting to work with them. And then also like all of the beautiful things that have come out of that experience in working with them.
Yeah, I love how you just leading
I'm
me to my
trying.
next
I'm really
questions.
trying.
This is so perfect. I want to get into
Yeah.
artist development. So I know you're talking a little bit. What you're talking about is artist development and how you're able to like curate your identity and make it marketable to people, so to the mass audience. And so I want to know like how your artist development journey has been. I feel like nowadays you have a lot of people who are just able to go viral off of a sound on TikTok or viral off of a little clip or whatever. But when it comes to that actual marketing aspect of them, they suck. You know what I'm saying? Like they have no oomph. And I'm not afraid to say it. And so I want to know like how has discovering your artistic style and your development like been credited to your management and your
Yeah, so
overall
I would
team?
definitely say it's crazy how we're having this conversation. Like, literally, when I first met you, like, I really did not, like, I was not comfortable in my own skin. Like, I used to always wear, like, I'm just gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna be real. I feel like you deserve
Mm-hmm.
I'm very comfortable on this podcast. Like, I just did not like my body. I did not like how it looked. I used to always wear like corsets under dresses to try to make my waist like super duper tiny, which don't get me wrong, it looked like I love being snatched and stuff like that, but like just I think the
Mm-hmm.
number one thing in general for me was just getting comfortable in my own skin and being comfortable being me has been like a major game changer in just how I operate, how I think about myself, how I present myself, the clothes that I wear, and just like having fun with it. I think before I always thought like, oh, once I make it, or oh, I do this, or like just that idea of like living in tomorrow, like again, that like mindset changed kind of when I saw myself being here full time, pursuing music again, like full time. Like it helped. Like the outfits that I wear now, like you would have never caught me dead in something like that. When I was running around Columbia back in the day when I first met you. But it's like, no,
The
I
couple of
know.
days.
Like, I'm just very grateful that like honestly like people like Ashley have given me the space to kind of like grow and evolve and let me really find myself and become who I'm supposed to be. I think it also really helps when you're friends with other artists as well too, who are kind of like living out their truth and living out their identity and are very confident in themselves as well, because it kind of helps you just like think of yourself a certain way as well too. And for me, I just again like I just was a girl from a small town that kind of just like, like, oh, I'm just a girl that can sing and I like to make music. Like I didn't really see myself as an artist, and I'm very grateful for that shift that happened mentally, and then also the people that have just let me evolve and grow into the person that I am today.
I love that. Who, speaking of like, your background, obviously being a small town girl, I know you talk about like, your family being more on the
Yes.
serious Christian side, you know what I'm saying? And so what are some artists that you were inspired by growing up that ultimately,
So I
inspired
would
you?
definitely say it would be anybody that's like considered like a great vocalist or like like a classical,
Yeah.
like a classic artist. So I really wasn't allowed, like on paper, allowed to listen to a whole lot of secular music. Um, but my mom loved, adored, with everything inside of her, loved Whitney Houston. Like that was just her, that was her girl. So I was allowed to listen to
Yes.
Whitney. So I would be like really little, like listening to that. I also, this is also something that like people really don't know about me. I was very into opera music when I was very, very young as well too, like in like middle school and stuff. And yeah, so I was really into that, like kind of classical music as well, which I don't really let people know that because I feel like people like that's not something that like everybody would like enjoy or they would think I'm weird. But I'm like, people probably already think I'm weird because like I was a
No,
theater
girl, we
kid.
could do it.
But
No, you ready? We go for.
no, for real, legitimately.
I love that. You remember that commercial? Wait. Did that
I
sound
mean, you
good?
was
Did that
hitting
sound
it.
good?
I
Did
did
you
a
hear?
little bit,
I was in a
of it.
little bit.
You got
Okay.
it there.
I
It's
love
getting
opera
great.
singing. I could. That's the kind of singing I like. Like I like the very like on your serious, and then you go.
Yes.
Oh,
I
like,
feel like there's something really
I
beautiful
was
about
sick.
like opera music, and I think it's so theatrical. I think it's so dramatic, and it's so like romantic, which are all things that like I love. You know what I'm saying? So will I ever record an
I
opera
need to
song?
go see
No,
Beethoven.
probably not.
Look. Okay, so given that, I want to talk about you being a lyricist. I know you come up with majority of your writing for your songs, and so what does creating that environment for you to write in look
So I
like?
would say for me, like writing really is like a safe space. I want people around me that are gonna be honest and tell me, like, hey, like rework that, or I don't like that, or ooh, da 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 da. Da. Like, and honestly, that really boils down to it just being me and Ashley. A lot of times, like whenever we're creating, another producer that I've had the honor of working with is One Hit as well, and One Hit has, he's kind of like I would definitely say that he's learned a lot just from being around Ashley as well too, and just kind of like hearing things from us working on music, and also like him just being around as well too. Like people just being like the main thing is like getting things to stick. You know what I'm saying? And like for me, like in working, I feel like I'm saying a lot and I'm saying nothing. I'm gonna get it
Mhm.
together. I'm gonna bring it
No, you
home. I'm
say
gonna bring it
something.
home. No, but I feel like Ashley really kind of like drives it into me like what is going to separate this from being a good song from a great song or a hit, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times when I think about my writing and I think about my lyrics and I think about what I'm trying to get across, what is going to make people remember it, you know what I'm saying? So kind of tying everything back, like I come up with a thesis statement, if that makes, I always call it the thesis statement. Shout out to English, whatever, going to school, like English class. Um,
You got
you
to
feel
build that
me? But like you
paragraph.
start off
Okay,
with that
come on.
original, like that core idea, and every line, every sentence, everything should come back to it. Is kind of that. And then a lot of times with like punchlines, because I feel like sometimes I like to be funny, I like to be witty in my music. I feel like I am a funny and witty person. I'm trying to incorporate more of that into my sound because I feel like a lot of people there's a perception of me and then there's me, and I'm a Virgo, so I'm very like protective of like my real personality, but you can't be like that in today's day and age. Like you have to just like bear it all and let people see your soul. So like I've been working on incorporating my sense of humor into my music more because I feel like that's something that people would enjoy. And a lot of times I saw Doja Cat actually talk about this in an interview as well too, but like she'll start with like the actual punchline and then work backwards, and I noticed that that's actually something that like I would do too. Like there's one thing I really want to say that I think is going to be funny and really stick or witty, and I think is the line, and then just like working backwards from there, and it kind of makes it a little bit easier like to kind of put together that idea, I guess.
No, I love that you worded it that way because I listen to Doja, and so now I feel like going back to listening to this one song. She goes, look at me, you looking?" And so now I want to hear that again, and then hear how she like
Yes.
goes into the song. Now that you just said that,
Yes.
that's cool. Okay, so given that, how did you write your newest single, 14 Days? Like, what? I know it's this little, yeah. Like, what caused you to be vulnerable
Oh,
enough
okay.
to write that?
I'm gonna be super honest with you. I back in October, I kind of like I was newer to being in St. Louis. I was in a 14-day relationship. Like it's just not a lie, people.
It was hey,
She was really a dumbass. No, I for me, I don't ever really date people that like I don't really know. Like normally for me, kind of how I do it, like, and this is just advice that my mom gave me. Normally I build friendships with people and then I kind of like go from there. But in this kind of situation, I just kind of like went with the flow, which is not really normal for me. but it's also like I was trying to live in the moment, and I was trying to, I think for me, I really missed my family, and being in a different city and being in a different town was kind of hard. And so I was like putting a lot of things on my plate to kind of like avoid those emotions. And so I went for this relationship I think that I wasn't really ready for, or what didn't like, wasn't, I couldn't really process everything that was happening. And so it just kind of was like the craziest 14 days of my life. Like it felt like it was actually 2 years. Like I know it was only 2 weeks, but it really felt like it was 2 years. Um,
It'd be like that.
yeah,
I've had some summertime flings, summertime loves, and them things be the worst heartbreak.
man,
So
it was
I know,
just
girl.
so
I know.
much emotion in such a short period of time. And I think for me, I just mentally could not, I just need, like, I couldn't do it. But that song is truly about that relationship and that experience. And I feel like I hate that, but at the same time, like, it's the truth. I feel like if that makes me Taylor Swift, it makes me Taylor Swift. Like, nothing I said was a lie.
Not
There's
if
no
it makes you
cap in my
Taylor Swift.
rap. So, yeah.
So that leads me to the next one. I want to get into your next single that you released earlier this year. Give Me a Reason. Same thing. Was that another relationship tied
So
to,
it
or was that
wasn't
just kind of like a?
about a give me a reason is like I so if you know the time frame of when I wrote it, it might give people context. It was not about a relationship. It was actually
Mhm.
about a friendship that I had with someone, and obviously I had feelings for that person that I hadn't really disclosed to them, and there was something hurtful that happened. But for me, wow, you are really getting all the tea. You are really getting all the tea. Um I didn't know how to express that. And I think that song gave me that outlet to kind of be able to just, and it was more so about the idea. Like in my head, I had an idea of, oh, I like this person and maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. But I have a friendship at the end of the day, like whatever. And that song really gave me
Mhm.
the outlet to kind of express those feelings, if that makes sense. So, yeah. But I did write that song
Yes.
last summer. I know I
No,
dropped it at
it's
the
a.
beginning of the year. So there's your
Mhm.
clue. Pick it up if you pick up what I'm putting down.
I don't
No,
want to get
you're
all in the
good.
business, but the reason why I asked is because those songs in particular really stood out to me in your projects. And I went back and listened to your other songs as well, which are just as good. But because of where
Yeah.
I am in my dating life, sis, I appreciate your music. And it's good to know that there's another girl in the world. Not
No,
good to know, like
it's
it's sucks that we got to go through
yeah,
this, but you know what I'm saying? But it's good to know that it's relatable and that like obvious, like, we have differences because, we're from different parts of I'm from California, you're
yeah,
from Missouri, you know what I'm saying? I'm black, you
yeah,
identify as white. So there's those differences, but we're still the same. We're
right,
still women. We're still dating men. We're still
yeah,
going through that journey. And so that ability to connect with you despite skin color, despite
right.
proximity, all those type of things, like that's bigger than the program to me. So I feel like you make music that is for everybody. And so I really
No, I
appreciate that.
appreciate you saying that. That really means a lot. I think sometimes, like I said earlier, like being a Virgo, like I'm very like closed off. I'm very guarded with letting people in. And I remember when I first started working on this song, Ashley was like, Faith, you have to get this song. Give me a reason specifically. You have to get this right, because he was like, there's gonna be so many people that are gonna hear this song and it's gonna mean something to them. And like if you just get vulnerable and just really just like bare your soul and just like let people see you, it's gonna pay off. And I feel like hearing things like that for me is very validating, because obviously that was like for me one of the most vulnerable songs I've ever written. Like I actually wrote it out at my parents actually live 15 minutes outside that small town that I grew up in, and there's a lake that's out there, and I actually wrote it out at that lake, and I was like crying. Like it was so sad. I've never cried writing a song. Only song in my life, I swear to God, I've ever cried writing it. So that means a lot that you actually said that.
It's the truth. All right. So I want to get into dating culture, given the last songs we just talked about. I want to know, this is just me getting in your business a little bit.
Yes, of course.
Has dating gotten a little better for you since, the beginning of the year?
No.
I feel you.
No.
Is
Everyone has bad intentions and everyone has bad motives, and I'm waiting for someone wearing a mask and a cape to come save me. And I
Same
mean
here,
that
sis.
wholeheartedly. It feels like every guy I let take me out on a date, it's like the supervillains get worse and worse.
So you know what I just learned? What DATE
Yes.
stands for? Okay. DATE stands for Dick at the End.
And that's
So I don't want to
truly,
go on any
honestly,
more
all it
dates.
should ever be. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, and because this, like, I feel like, but that says a lot about our dating culture, you know. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like if your intention is to get dick at the end,
Then
I mean,
that's the choice for you. Yeah. No. I had two parents. My dad and my mom met each other um at church and stuff like that, and my mom had gone through a divorce. My dad waited for her for 2 years because he
mm,
saw her and met her and was like, that's the girl that I want. And at that point in time, she just couldn't handle, she like didn't want to get her heart broken again. So for her, she was like, if you really care about me, like, you'll just be fine with us just being friends. And then my mom said she knew she liked my dad, she just didn't really want to she just didn't want to get hurt again. So she was like, I took that pressure off of myself by just telling him that I just wanted to be friends. And so they built this beautiful friendship. And then from that, they started dating. So for me, and they're still married to this day. So I've watched love work, and I watched two people, because my mom also said, she was like, love is a choice. I don't wake up every day and like feel like I'm in love with your dad. But she was like, you have to like somebody enough though to choose them. And that's
mm.
important. So I feel like, I'm just waiting for that right person to come along. I don't know. Like, I'm also not putting myself out there in situations to date people, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of times
Mhm.
it's people that just happen to be around my inner circle due to the circumstances of like me doing music and being around a studio. So it's like, I'm not like actively pursuing trying to be in a relationship, because for me, that's not like my life's work. My life's work is my career. And like, I'm not saying that it's never going to be, and that I don't want to have kids and I don't want a family. Like, I do, trust me, but
Hmm.
this to me is like more important for me. And I think if someone was to ask you to pull away from that for them, I think that would be really selfish and wrong.
I feel that.
So,
No, you mentioned
yeah.
something earlier about being friends first, about your parents. And I realized that too now in my wanting to be with someone journey. I'm not going to say dating journey, because I just don't want dick at
Yes,
the
I
end.
like
You know
that.
what I'm
What is
saying?
it? Finding
Yeah.
your soulmate.
Thank you. In my journey of finding my soulmate, I've realized that if we can't be friends first, then we really ultimately can't have a relationship that is going to have dick at the end, because and have dick at the end and work. Because if we were never friends, you know what I'm saying? Then it's like there's that lack of understanding of like, oh, I can't just be intimate with this person and then, like have fun with them too. Like, it just has to be intimate. And we don't have anything else outside of just intimacy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
we need something else. We have to have something to
Substance.
bond over other than a bed and some sheets,
Agreed. I also feel like sometimes when you get into a relationship with somebody and you don't really know them, it's like when you befriend somebody, you kind of see like, I know what this person's upbringing was like. I know what their struggles are. I know what their strengths are. And you kind of like learn to love them for who they are. And so you don't have this idea and this unrealistic expectation in your head of like who you think they should be for you going into it. You just kind of already love this person, if that makes sense. So I
No,
feel
yeah.
like that's kind of like some of it too. And then honestly, like my last serious relationship with my ex who I dated for 3 years, I feel like we still have, like, we're still cordial and are friends today. Now, if I was to start seriously seeing somebody else or start dating somebody else, I probably wouldn't be like, I'm not going to be close to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, out of
No, I know
respect
what
for
you're
the
saying.
relationship that I am in, but I don't want to be on bad terms. I went through a really trying time. On Valentine's Day, I found out my very first boyfriend had passed away, and
Oh no.
we ended on not good terms at all. And I just don't ever, ever, ever want that to ever be a thing again. So I think for me, it's important to just like be on cordial terms with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you
No, I
once
feel
loved
you.
somebody.
I feel you. And so, like, for me too, like, even in my creative process, a lot of my heartbreaks have fueled some of my, like, most creative desires, if you will. So, like, not giving into that pain of the heartbreak and wanting to transform that into something productive.
Yeah.
That's ultimately why I started my podcast back, because I was just like, like, let me get back to myself, you know what I'm saying? And get back to who
Agreed.
I am, 100%. And so I definitely understand how dating can impact you, and ultimately impact your art. And so that's why I just had to ask, like, given, the last series of music that you dropped, like, how has dating gotten better? Because these fools better act right, okay? They need to start acting right.
No, it's so tragic. That it's I don't know. I think because of how I grew up, it's just really hard for me to find somebody that understands like what I'm looking for in love. I think this generation is very transactional. I think social media also makes it hard for people to want to be in a relationship. And then also me pursuing music and putting myself out there, it's hard because it's like a regular guy who works like a normal 9 to 5 job would be very intimidated in being in a relationship with me because obviously like I am very comfortable in my own skin. I'm also putting myself around
Mm,
like out there to be seen. And then I'm also around other men that make music as well too. I'm in a studio space and it takes a very confident individual. So it's like it's hard to date a regular guy and then you go to the industry and all the industry guys are one older, at least here in St. Louis, they're all older. And then two, they already have lives. Three, they're very selfish people. They don't really care about they're not even good people. So why would they be a good partner?
I feel
Yeah.
you. In terms of like dating though, I feel like lately where I've been at is that, when they say if a man really wants to be with you, he will. And I really get that. Like, it's not hard. Like, I come from a legacy of seeing people being married, my great
Right.
grandparents, my grandparents, my
Yeah.
mother. And so it's like, I feel like I have a high expectation when it comes to love and when it
Agreed.
comes to like, especially making a family and like having that like sacredcy, like that bond. And so I feel like, again, the man has to really want to be with you. It can't just be me wanting to be with you and then you just being like, oh, I got options. It don't work
Yeah.
like that.
I agree. I think it's so easy for people to cop out of like commitment due to options and things like that because it is so like you said, dating culture is so much like that. And again, it's so
Transactional, like you said.
transactional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, cool. If I take this girl to dinner, I'm gonna get some, you know what I'm
Dick
saying?
at the end.
Like, and it's
Okay.
just like that's not like there's so much more to life and there's so much more to and the sad thing is like I'm a very loyal person and maybe I shouldn't be, so it's like when I am like seeing somebody, like that's the only person I'm talking to, that's the only person that I'm seeing. And I think for me I have a hard time knowing that like I'll give somebody that loyalty and it's not going to be reciprocated because I can't like one, and I understand being a woman is different than being a man. Like this is a woman's podcast here, this is a safe space.
This
um
is.
so I understand like men like want to see who's gonna fit best for them. But like, I don't know, for me in my heart, I just can't handle like juggling multiple people at the same time. That's not to say that like there haven't been multiple people that were like interested in me at the same time, but it's also like I'm not gonna sit there and realistically give my time to two people. Like I barely have time to even go home and meal prep. Like if I'm
I hear
taking time
you.
out of my day to get to know you and I find out you're talking to multiple people, let alone sleeping with multiple people, like I'm gonna feel very disrespected because not only are you like I would never actively sleep with somebody who's sleeping with multiple people, but you've wasted my time. I could have been having a rehearsal. I could have scheduled a shoot. I could have been doing a recording. I could have been doing anything else. I could honestly have been at home watching Love Island
Your life is so cute.
instead of talking to you or being around you. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, it is.
Maybe I'm
They
weird.
don't need to be distractions. Some men are distractions, and I realize that
Agreed.
because I know you are a spiritual woman and you have a relationship with
Yes.
God. Some, especially women like us that have futures, who are successful, who have
Yes.
careers. There's going to be times where, and this is for the women out there too that are listening as well. Like if the shoe fits, honey, wear it. There's going to be men out there who are just going to come after you because that's their assignment. They're a distraction. They're a test to get
Yeah.
you off focus from what it is that you and God have, working out. And so it's okay to kind of give it some attention. But as soon as you realize it's not what you want, stop giving it time because God already gave you a
Agreed.
vision for something else. And if this man or this woman, this partner isn't fitting into that, then let it go.
That was so well said. Like that was everything that you said, I felt in my heart. Literally, I feel like my prayer here recently has just been for discernment. At the end of the day, like I know, like I don't want to pray for a specific person. I'm like, oh God, please let me and this person just be together. Like, let it work out or da da da. Like, no, like Father, whatever your will is for my life, you know that person's out there for me. You know, what my life is supposed to look like. So I just pray for His will, and at the end of the day, whatever God's plan is for my life, that's my plan. So that's kind of like what my prayer has been here lately. And I feel like He's also told me that St. Louis wasn't a place that I was really supposed to get comfortable in. So part of me is like, maybe in saying yes to a date and going out on a date with somebody is like wrong. Like maybe that was wrong because I'm not supposed to get comfortable. So why would you try to find a relationship or why would you try to settle down when you know that that's not what God wants for you, right?
Faith, I'm so grateful you took the time out to just share with the world who you are and what you're up to and what you're about. We're going to have to run this back another time because, you're going to have to come out there or you're going to have to come out here and meet your next man.
Let me come out there. I'm trying to get away from St. Louis.
Okay,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. When I say that, I'm like, people are going to be like, oh, she hates St. Louis. No,
I know what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. I need to come back out that way, actually. I miss Mizzou. I miss my Como city. That's it. We're going to have to get to a whole nother chapter. But that's all I have for today, Faith. I thank you so much for coming on the show. Any questions for me before I let you go?
Yes. What made you want to start doing podcasting? I feel like you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I just kind of want just a little, like more of an explanation before we go.
To answer your question, what led me to starting my podcast was, as I mentioned briefly with the whole dating stuff, is like really feeling like I lost sight of who I was. On top of other things, I went to school to be a sports broadcaster. My goal was to work for Fox News or ESPN. And so once I realized a multitude of things weren't working in my life, I was like, what can I do that is inspiring, that shows who I am, but also like what I'm up to in life, period. And that is meeting people, conversating with people, highlighting what they do, ultimately what I was going to do for the news station anyways. And so I started this show before I went to college to become a news anchor. And so when I was kind of just at my rock bottom, I was just like, what can I do to build myself back up? And I look back at what my 17-year-old self had did, and she started this podcast. And so to get back into this space makes me feel like, if I don't do something right, it's to like follow what my younger self was once so inspired by. So that way I can get back into like building my identity and getting back to who I am and remembering who I am.
Oh, I really love that. I feel like sometimes it's hard when things don't pan out the way that we see them planning for our lives, but you really find out what you're made of when you pivot and you just realign yourself with something that's at the core of what you're doing. Like you feel fulfilled. And I feel like I'm glad that you're doing something where you feel like you have a purpose.
It really is. It's about really finding yourself. And like, I'm sure with music too, like how you said, like you feel if you go to therapy, you won't have anything to write about. You know what I'm saying? Literally. But it's really about like finding what makes you happy and discovering what makes you you. And if that is using your heartbreak to fuel that into a song to help someone else heal, then that's what you got to do to ultimately find who you are. Therapy will help with that self-discovery too, but like you said, that is your therapy. That's your outlet. And so this is my outlet. This is my therapy and rediscovering and remembering who I am and the intentions I set out in the world.
I love that. I feel like that's a perfect way to leave it. I feel like that's perfect because it's like you talking about your therapy, me talking about mine. I love that. We're finding like this like harmonious space. You feel me? I love that.
That's why I need to bring you in. So one day in the near future, we're going to run this back. I thank you so much for being a guest. My first ever virtual guest, y'all. She is the first ever.
Yay.
Yeah. Yes. Queen. Thank you. I'm so excited. And I really look forward to our next conversation next week. Other than that, Faith, I love you. And I'll talk to you later, girl.
Aww. Love you too. Thanks for having me.
Tuning into the Jam Hour, where we talk on the hottest topics. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. CT on YouTube.